Now let's move on to the last backup type and probably the most important one. This is very new. It is introduced in Velero 1.12, which means it's barely 2 months old. It's very similar to FSB, but they address the big drawback that I have talked about in case of file system backups, which is reading from the live PVs, right? But other than that, the rest of the backup functionality, the way the data is transferred to object store using the backup repos, everything, all of that remains same, right? It's done exactly the same way as the case with FSB. The main difference is instead of reading from the live persistent volume, this backup actually creates a CSI snapshot and uses that snapshot as the source for the backup. And in fact, that is the right way to do it. And I would also mention at this point that Cloud Casa has done this has been doing this for 3 years now. Even at the very beginning, when we built Cloud Casa, this is what we have done. Basically, we do a snapshot and we back up from the snapshot. And the reason for us doing that right away is we are a backup company. We have been in backup business for what, 30 years now. We have other products, so we understand the right way to do the backup, and the right way to turn backup a volume or a file system is to read from a snapshot. So that's why we went ahead and did this very early on. And so we built a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience in this area. Even though Velero only introduced this 2 months back, Cloud Casa as a team, we have a lot of experience with this type of the backup. And how is this implemented? So Velero creates a CSI snapshot of a persistent volume, and then it'll immediately create a temporary PVC with this snapshot as a source. And for those of you who understand how this works, you create a PVC and you set a field called data source and you point to the CSI snapshot. And then you're getting a temporary PVC, right, from that snapshot. And Velero will go ahead and back up that PVC using Copia. By the way, only Copia is supported in this type of the backup. So once the PVC is backed up, the temporary PVC is removed, right? Which means the snapshot is removed as well. So cleanup is done. So that is roughly the high-level flow, how it works. I'm calling this SDMB. Again, a quick point. The name is not really, there's no consensus on what to call this. Some people refer to it Snapshot Data Mover Backups. I mean, that's usually what I do. There are 1 or 2 other names that people use. And in fact, there is an active discussion in Velero forums what standard name we should use. And I just decided to use this acronym SDMB, which I mean Snapshot Data Mover Backups, right? And this is how they work. And what is the advantage? And we already talked about this. The biggest advantage is you're taking a snapshot and you're backing up the snapshot. So automatically your backup is going to be much more consistent. Again, it's not going to be 100% consistent, but it's relatively more consistent because the window is much smaller now. The snapshot typically takes only a few minutes, even shorter than that in most cases. So your data is going to be consistent, but it is still a good idea to use the hooks like I talked about in case of FSB to quiz and freeze the activity on the PV, right? It's always a good idea to get an application consistent backup, and you won't get application consistent backup unless you use these hooks to do something and to freeze the application rights, right? So I highly recommend that even if you use this backup type, you should use application hooks. Without that, you are only going to get what is called crash consistent backups, which is much better than what you get with FSB, but still you should aim for application consistent backups. And there are some limitations with this backup. For example, because this takes a CSI snapshot, obviously you need to, this only works for the CSI PVs. And not only that, your CSI driver must support snapshots and also restore from snapshot. As you will see, that's not always the case. So not all CSI drivers are created equal. So I'll talk about that. So that is required, and only Copia is supported. So you will not be able to use Restic with this flow. And again, this is because Velero maintainers, Velero development team has decided that going forward, all the effort is going to be put on Copia and not on Restic. Right. I do have a backup. And this is the SDM backup here. So here, let's see details. So here, I don't see any extra information provided, like Snapshot Data Mover Backups. I brought this up in Velero forums, and work is currently ongoing to give that information. In fact, the work is to include much more descriptive information about each PVC in the backup. So once that is done, most probably in 1.13 timeframe, you are going to see more information in the backup describe about what type of backup is used for a given persistent volume. Right now, comparison between these two, my recommendation, you should use the Snapshot Data Mover Backups. There is a typo here, so it should be SDMB. It's a Snapshot Data Mover Backups. Wherever you can, if you basically fulfill the requirements, that's what your first target should be. But if you can't, for whatever reason, you use non-CSI PVs, your CSI driven doesn't support some of this functionality like snapshots, or you want to use Restrict for some reason, the next best thing is to use the file system backup, right?